Next, we have our panel, and just let me put on the screen so that you can see who else is with us. Sudhir from Lenskart and Abhinav from Cars24. And Dharmesh remains with us again from CanCertain, as you just saw and heard. So I have a bunch of questions to ask Sudhir and to ask Abhinav, especially because you guys have been here for a little while now, and you are expanding aggressively from what I can see, and what the market trends look like. It looks like that you've established a solid base in the region, especially in the UAE, and you're looking to expand further. Of the positive experiences that may have surprised you when you decided to enter the UAE or any other, or when you're trying to scale into the GCC, is there anything that you faced and you were like, wow, that's cool?
I think if I may answer, I think UAE, just the speed with which you can get things done initially is impressive, and I think depends on the sector you're in. You get certain grants and certain benefits and ESOPs. But I think what really blew my mind was Saudi, and Saudi. Both Abhinav and me were at a conference, and the government has been so forthcoming, and they're the extent of funding, also having various programs where they fund up to 50% of the salaries of when you hire locals, right? So just the drive and energy in Saudi is overwhelming, and how that country wants to grow, and how they're thinking in a very forward way. And everybody is in on it, right? And my days in Saudi are ending at 12:01 a.m. and the locals have so much passion and energy. It's amazing to see.
Abhinav?
I think I completely agree. Also, I think a couple of things that surprised us. One, the typical tech adoption, the early adopters, I would say, in UAE are massive. Right? So it just gives you a great head start with your product. Right? People want to try. People have that appetite to try out new technology products. And I think that gives you a fair chance at an early stage. And that's why I was saying that you will get your answers pretty early, if your product market fit is there or not. So it's not a very long waiting game. That is, I think, number one, which is interesting. Second, I think from a distance, we tend to club Middle East together. There are very low synergies according to me, right? UAE and Saudi are completely different markets. Customer behavior is different. Governments behave in a different way. They're at a different maturity curve, right? The smaller GCC countries are, in a very different zone. So clubbing the Middle East, clubbing the GCC together and thinking that, hey, if I have been successful in UAE, I will crack Saudi as well. I don't think that's the right strategy.
Right. Absolutely.
Completely different markets. It's literally sitting in Delhi and saying, oh, hey, everything in South India is the same. That's not how it is, right? Every market is completely different. So Middle East is 100% a completely different geography. Each country behaves in a very, very different manner. There are some synergies that different governments are trying to do, but not enough for you to have a blueprint in one country and implement it in the other. I think they behave very differently.
Right. Understood. Yes, I agree. Because the countries themselves are so different in terms of size and population. I mean, what you can do in the UAE, you cannot do in Egypt, right? Because again, it's large country. I mean, the UAE is 10-12 million people versus Egypt, which is 100 million plus. They have their own economic challenges, their political challenges, and their policy challenges as well, right? Dharmesh, you would agree with the point as well, right? That the early adoption of technology in the UAE especially is really gives a head start to tech companies in the region.
From our experience, we found that the region is hungry for tech. UAE does not want to be seen as a holiday destination anymore. They want to be seen as the hub in the Middle East. They don't want to be writing checks to companies in the UK or USA or India and financing tech startups over there. They want those startups to come to the UAE. And as I think Abhinav said, they are funding the programs to fund this expansion into the UAE. and especially the UAE themselves. A lot of that is Abu Dhabi driven, and I think one of the key things to understand is the difference between Dubai and Abu Dhabi, and where they and the there's also, I would say, in my experience, a behavioural difference between the people in the two places, maybe. But Abu Dhabi, I think, wants some serious investment and some serious moves of companies into there.
Right.
Obviously, there's competition between the two Emirates. So
yeah,
that's one
right.
of the things that you can leverage and play on, to be perfectly
you're
honest.
Right. Dubai, I think it is today that the government of Dubai has launched $100 million VC fund for tech startups, and the Sovereign Wealth Fund of Qatar a couple of weeks ago announced that they're moving away from large industrial or real estate assets investment, and they're going to move to tech investments. So there is a lot of movement happening in this region to make this a more tech friendly or a more knowledge based economy environment, which is great for tech companies who are trying to enter this region.